whoever pops up first. Okay, so I'm going to end. I'm going to leave the meeting. Okay, assign and leave. Who wants to be the host?
You can give it to me, Mayor, if you want, or Mark.
I will. Hang on.
Eric, I think he has more things he wants to share on the screen. So
Okay,
that
I
makes it
let
easy if he's
Brian.
host.
Perfect. And Brian's in, so we're good there. All right, I will see you guys in a few as soon as I get back.
See you, Mayor.
Isn't anyway. Okay. So, oh, there she's gone. All right, it is 6:06, Thursday, June 23rd. This is our legislative committee hearing. In attendance is Councilperson Shrestha, Councilperson Camera, Council President Wolf, Councilperson Koss, Councilperson McNamara, Village Planner Eric Fisher, and Councilperson Mark Ruger, Chair of the committee. So let's get started. We have two big things to discuss on the agenda. The first is the poop ordinance, for lack of a better term. Eric, I think you have, I know you sent me some, what I thought was pretty.
Oh, you froze, sir. Everybody froze. Maybe it's me.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I froze. Everything froze for a minute. So I hear you, Stacy, but
Yeah, but
I see Jason.
I see Jason.
Yeah,
Nikki,
Jason's moving.
Hold on.
Here.
Okay, David's still there, but it looks like Brian, Mark, and Nikki all froze. There, we go.
There it is.
There we are. Woo. We're all unfroze.
We're all better.
Okay. Wonderful. As I was saying, I want to this evening talk about the poop, talk about the fireworks, just to make sure we're all on the same page on that. Take a half-second look at our leash thing that I know Nikki was concerned with. I know Dave's going to do that in safety, but I was just going to pull up because I have it pulled up. And then lastly, if you checked the updated meeting packet, there is a pretty devastating new thing on that we're going to need to discuss concerning the
Do what?
bids received yesterday.
It's not devastating. I'll go over everything. It's okay. It's just
It
a matter
was
of
to me.
order.
You'll explain why I shouldn't
Nope, don't.
jump
Yeah,
into the lake yet on it, I'm sure, but.
don't jump in the
that's-
lake. We're gonna get that fixed
Go.
too.
Okay, so let's start with the poop thing since you had that ready, Eric, and we're going to share it.
Okay, happy to discuss that. I know I sent it to the members here. So I'll put it on the screen for those that didn't get my earlier email. 1 second. I think that's it. Okay. Everyone see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so Jesse and I have been kind of going over stuff and he forwarded this on. I think it's pretty good. This was from, not from the local municipalities here in Central Ohio. So I have to go back to his email, but it was somewhere in the Northeast, I think. So, but this one, I kind of handles it. And I think I agree that it pretty much covers our needs and I think it's a good place to start. So I'll give everyone a chance who didn't already receive it to review it and then we can talk about it a little bit.
I'm seeing a term person in charge thereof. Is that clear enough? Is that a term of art? What I'm concerned that is, I mean, I may be here and I may be holding the leash, but I'm not in charge of this animal. Like I'm concerned that is.
So yeah, we'll clarify the term of art, if it is that. I think it's the person in charge of the animal for the officer to make a determination. Just like you may have a vial of something on your person when the officer searches you, you can't claim that it's not yours, or when it's in the vehicle and they search the vehicle, the driver gets charged with it, right? Same type of idea, I think. We'll run that down.
And to me, it just says if I use, I don't know, there's a name for it, but there's probably more than one dog walking service that comes to my house when I'm at work and walks my dog. Well, it's not my dog. Well, you are currently in charge of or control of this animal at the moment, so it is your dog.
I think
And
the
I
difference
think a
there is,
lot of like Rover and WAG apps, anybody that is like employed with them, they have a clause saying that they are to uphold any laws in any municipalities that they are active in. So again, that goes right along with it. So whoever's got the dog,
right, my concern is merely that the language capture it, right? I would imagine that if, where was the phrase again?
And B,
Uh,
first sentence of B.
Person in charge thereof, right? So here's what I'm imagining, right? I'm walking Mark's dog with Mark, right? The dog poops, we are jerks and walk away. Is it my ticket because I'm the one with the leash in my hand, or is it Mark's ticket because it's his dog?
Believe it's you.
Who's
in
the
this
person
case.
in charge?
Yeah, it should be you in this case. Now, that is an interesting question as we get back to the dog that's running loose and just by training goes and poops in the reserve without anyone in control. However, he returns to the owner's residence, and it's going to be the person, in charge in the household is the way I'd interpret that. But we'll check on all those little details and see. Obviously, this is a first run. See if we can add specific language for our situations.
Minor misdemeanor.
I think I'd like clarified what a sealed sanitary receptacle would be.
Well, anything that's not leaking would be, again, my interpretation of that. So if you have if you use something to pick the dog, I mean, we're all used to picking up with baggies and we
Yeah.
provide baggies, but people sometimes have more, like a solid pooper scooper they bring along. And, that's not usual, but people do have those.
Yeah, but
Or
this
they-
is specifically under in your yard, right? And
No, this
number F?
is any public land, street, or right of way upon the land in which any property owner, other than that of the owner of the person in charge. Because if they're not picking up poop out of their yard, right, that's an issue where we would deal with that through a zoning and nuisance violation, right? The police don't cite them in that case. In these other cases where you're in the right of way or in the public yards, or your dog trespasses and poops, now you can be cited for that situation. So that's where the police step in.
Eric, I think he was referring to the last line of F.
Yeah,
Okay.
The owner or persons in charge of the animal shall maintain the property where the animal is kept in clean and sanitary condition by the regular removal of the defecation of such animal in a properly
Oh,
sealed
that's-
sanitary receptacle.
Yeah, sorry, misunderstood. So in that particular clause, the way I would read that is you're maintaining the property you're taking it off of. So you're not taking it and then, oh, I'm going to smush it everywhere, right? Or something like that. Like you're expected to do your best to clean it up. As we know, it doesn't always come up nicely, but you're expected to remove it as best as possible and not make it a further problem or damage the yard, right? I'm not going to pull up a whole bunch, like give the guy a hole in his grass trying to pick it up either. That's a type of damaging.
I was gonna say, the way it reads to me is that when I clean up the waste in my yard, that waste needs to go into some type of container that's sealed in some way and sanitary. So can I, by reading that, can I just pick it up in a grocery bag, plastic bag, and throw it in my garbage? Is that part of,
The answer is yes. I would say this little line may be something we remove or adjust to some degree because it's police code and it's talking about how you maintain it in your yard, whereas we would put that under the zoning or maintenance code,
Okay.
right? We wouldn't dictate that under police code. So we'll get that cleaned up,
Okay,
pun intended.
Maybe just removal and disposal.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is a thing people even do, but I know we have people who do weird things in the village. Is dog waste ever used for composting? Could someone, if they had a composting thing,
I would,
Nikki's
I
shaking her
don't,
head, no.
don't think that's anywhere in the best practices standards at all.
Yeah, Nikki's
And-
shaking her
and-
head, no. I bet in some countries,
Yeah,
but
not,
but
I'm
some
sure in
countries.
some countries now, chicken waste is one thing because it's high in a lot of those nutrients and minerals, if you want to say. Yeah, but I've never heard of canine feces being used in any.
Okay. I mean, I also spent summers on farms where, you know, the manure spreader was the size of a pickup truck.
Very true. Very true.
Drove and all the cow poop back out to the fields.
Yeah, I've heard of chicken, but I've never heard of dog.
Okay. Just the tanneries that want the dog poop then.
I guess.
So
Alright.
Eric, are you saying that E and F would probably be removed out of this and placed somewhere else?
Any property where animals are kept.
yeah, I think because this is gonna be stuck under police code like 618 or something like that. So it's gonna be added in there somewhere and the officers, we'll talk about that in-house.
Okay.
The officers aren't gonna be enforcing what is essentially a zoning code, right?
Okay,
So with E and F struck, and clarification on person in control of, then the only other thing to look at is the consequences side of the equation. So is minor misdemeanor what we're looking for with the step up to a misdemeanor of the 4th degree for, what is it, the 2nd in a year or the 3rd in a year?
So we'll see if that deviates from what the standard is. I mean, that usually there's a standard applied for police and how things get tacked on over the course of time.
Right,
I
I mean, we could look to assess a fee as well, right?
We potentially could. I will have to, again, discuss that too, that option.
What is the penalty for a minor misdemeanor?
I've top of my head, I do not know. We'll have to ask chief that.
Okay, fair enough.
It's probably set by the magistrate in mayor's court. But I'm sure there's a guideline,
A range, yeah.
and probably not much.
Yeah, this
Yeah, but-
needs to have, I don't know, this just, in my opinion, needs to actually have some genuine teeth to it. So,
Well, the thing to that is, and you know, with my own experience with poaching, and no, I didn't, that's just a joke. I was going out for the first fishing trip of the year, and the bait shop near where we went fishing that we always got our license at had burned down over Christmas, and we didn't know about it. And sure enough, that was the day I got approached by an ODNR officer asking to see my license. And yeah, the fine was only $50, but Delaware's court costs were $130.
Correct.
So even a small fine can balloon into something pretty annoying to pay once you get all that other stuff in.
According to the internet, convicted of a minor misdemeanor in Ohio, no jail for that, but you can have a fine up to $150. 4th degree misdemeanor, up to 30 days in the local jail, and fines up to $250.
sounds good.
Fine by me.
I don't think we need to necessarily put anyone in jail, but I don't think a magistrate would do that for a dog.
I mean, jail might be a bit much, but those fines are pretty good.
Mhm.
Because it's a health risk, it's antisocial, it's just, I'm glad we're getting all of this.
Depends if the dog pooped on the magistrate card or not.
Well,
But-
that too.
All right, so I think we have our notes on this one, yeah? Oh, but I guess I shouldn't step on Mark's toes. Mark.
That's all right. Anyone else have anything they want to add to it? Okay, moving on. Our next big thing was the fireworks ordinance, which, as I understand it, we were looking to just adopt the state's language. Now, many municipalities in central Ohio have rejected that and said no fireworks. Is this council, and as I look at the screen, we have full council here, still thinking we want to be able to light off our Class Cs a few times a year, or is that just something I kind of said and thought and people grudgingly got, I don't want people feeling et cetera. Anastasia already had her hand up, so go ahead, Stacy.
Okay, I'm just gonna say, I'm a little worried about this fireworks thing, guys, with all these old trees and stuff. I just feel like, do we want to like make us the little island where we can set off fireworks and everything around us can't? Like, I feel like it's a liability. I feel like it's a lot of work. I don't know. And I'm like not into it with small children and pets and all the other things that are my priorities in my current life and my lifestyle. So maybe I'm speaking for myself, maybe I'm speaking for the people with young kids and animals in the village, but I don't necessarily think this is the best idea.
So if I may jump in real quick, I have a couple of thoughts that may help you guys. So first, as one of my family members, a resident, I was quite excited that you guys had not outlawed fireworks because I was bringing my show over to my brother's house to light off a few things. Because New Albany, unfortunately, I got in trouble last year trying to light them off. So they did not adopt it. So I will not do anything crazy, but I have a nice safety box and everything else. And what I will tell you is that from a liability standpoint, it's not just like it's not a township or village problem. It's homeowners, right? So homeowners liability insurance and their liability if something goes wrong, injury, just like if I had a campfire, just like if I had some other accident on my property that went awry, tree even that I was cutting down fell into my neighbor's yard and someone got injured or property damage, the property owner at the end of the day is liable, right? Their insurance is what they revert back to. Since you've made it legal, right, at the moment, and I don't know that you might be able to get things in quick to change it. Since it's legal right now for July 4th, if something happens, what's also nice about that is my insurance does cover it. If you make it illegal and people shoot off illegal fireworks or it's not allowed in the municipality, their insurance won't cover it. And so there's a whole different ball of wax that goes with that. I would actually argue that it's nicer to have that protection. I will tell you, I agree with you. I'm a responsible firework user, big fan, but people don't necessarily pay attention to one key element, which of course is the fire safety items regarding dryness, right? So if it's too dry, I'm not going to fire them off. I'm going to pay attention to that warning, wind warning and other things, because you just can't control them. And I don't feel comfortable shooting things off to get other people injured. It's not my thing either. So, but you might be able to, I believe we can write something in the code, of course, since we have home rule authority here, that would say, hey, based on this particular, fire rating, dryness rating, you can or can't do it. And of course, you can make that announcement. No fireworks, just like Colorado does, right? You can't have campfires when it's too dry. Right? You just can't do it. ODNR maintains those, I think, here locally as well too, and you can see that published on station. So those are my 2 cents on a couple things for you to consider.
I think that's a fantastic thing for us to add on would be, they're permitted on these dates, conditional to, what'd you say, the ODNR, fire risk rating or something like that would be, I think that'd be a fair compromise. People are going to shoot fireworks off. If, God forbid, an accident happens, insurance help would be beneficial compared to no insurance help. I don't know. I think we should continue with, or, go forward with permitting them.
Yeah, I'm still on the side of permit it at this point in time. I would like to know, does anyone know, did Westerville pass anything? Because they would be a bordering town or Blendon Township.
I believe they already have, a township that won't have any regulations. They go back to the state. So people in the township can do that and everything else is allowed. Westerville, I believe, just like New Albany, already had it on the books where they already had a blanket. I'll double check it and email it if I'm not correct, but I believe they had a blanket coverage. So New Albany also didn't change it because they already had it on the books.
Okay. So who around us, are we an island that?
You are, except for the township, which allows
Okay.
it.
All right. Do you think it would become pretty public knowledge? Do you think we'd have an infestation of people coming into the neighborhood and shooting off fireworks?
That's
That would be illegal.
that is the rub, and I don't think we have any way to gauge, right? Yeah, I don't
Right.
know anybody who packs up their fireworks to
Right.
take it over to their buddy's house where they know it's legal, except
Eric
for
Fisher.
Eric Fisher. Right? But that said, I sure, people who like to do these things are also people who will research where they could do it, right? And then do they have an associate here in the village to go bring their stuff, to, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
there's only 1,000 households, so, at worst, if everybody had 2 friends that was a big fireworks nut, maybe you get a lot. But I am
I'll
very
tell you, too, everyone, it's difficult because the park has so many trees.
Mhm.
Many people don't have good yards to fire
Mhm.
these out of. It's only in the new section, right? And only, my brother's got a tree in the back and we won't be able to fire off in the back. I've already scouted it. I've got a nice wide spot between 2 houses, can pull it off the, midway between, still on his property and fire off something that's kind of mid-range, nothing ginormous, right? So people just to entertain people for an hour or so. The only other thing I would tell you that I think you'll end up doing it after a few of these displays is I think you're going to want to restrict the times to something reasonable for people, like
Mhm.
dusk till 10:30, right? Because after 10:30, people are trying to 4th of July, for example, is on a Monday. People are going to be working Tuesdays, right? And so I, as a responsible firework user, will do it for about an hour, and because it just takes time. It's not going to be a massive show, but it's going to be, I got to reload, I got to put it in here. And it takes about an hour, right? But there are people who fire it off at 2 a.m. and 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. and the law allows for that. So
We definitely
willing
need
to
to put the
restrict the
time
time.
in. Yeah, a time limit definitely in.
I would add the dry rates according to ODNR too. If we're going to allow it, let's just add that extra level of safety. You know what I mean? Because again, if that's one of our major risks, that way it just kind of alleviates that. Say it's a level 10 that day. I just think there's nothing wrong with adding that little safety net as well.
I'm glad it's not just me. Thank you.
The ordinance would be letting them off on your own property, correct? You couldn't go down to the basketball courts and set them off there.
yeah, it has to be, unless you issue a special permit, which you're not at this time,
Mm.
nobody else, because it would be your display and you would then have
Yeah.
some type of waiver of liability. But yes, you would.
Which is a shame because the basketball court would be the best place to launch them from.
It is nice and level, but it leaves marks. We
Yeah.
have to protect it.
So
You
at
put
this,
a-
go
you put
ahead.
a stand for them.
Wait, I have one thing though, guys, like the more complicated we make this to like regulate, the harder it is to enforce. Like, oh, you can shoot it off. Like, how are the police going to enforce and not enforce this stuff? Like, I feel like this is getting really
We
hairy.
would have to have some notice, right? So it would be, if it's a red flag day, right? And this is, so in, beaches or anything like that, there's a clear warning symbol that you could put at the entrance to neighborhoods. You could put a notice, on your, at your building. You would have to get a notice out and the police would have to go around and tell people. I mean, it would be a little bit of a pain in the arse depending on when you knew that it was just too dry. I mean, some years are great. Some years it rains 2 days before 4th of July and it's nice and wet. Some years, as we know, it's dry for a whole week and it's really clear you really shouldn't be, shooting things off then. But it's one of those things you'll have to find a way to give people fair warning. And some nights the police will just have to go out and tell them.
So,
We have the capability through our texting and all that. That's something. I'm sorry, Jason. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sweet.
okay.
It's
No,
just-
I just want to clarify that at this point in time, we are falling under the state's regulations and next weekend, we and our neighbors can set off stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And technically with no restraints, although I believe certainly the noise ordinance, which does have some times put into it, I believe, could be used. Even if, it's legal to set off these fireworks, yes, but they're too loud and it's 11 o'clock and
It's an interesting question, Mark. I will ask real quick. I'm not sure that would be enforceable like that. We'll have to double check because it's not technically a nuisance if it's a legal use.
It's legal for me to play my drum. It would be a nuisance if I was playing my drum at 11 o'clock at night.
because I think we did put timeframes in for the noise ordinance, if I
We,
recall.
we did. That's it. No, and I appreciate the creative thinking there. And
Mhm.
let's find out. Let's see if we
Yeah.
can do that.
I have to imagine that would fly.
Yeah. Okay, so we want the dry, we want a time frame. It's already just your home, so,
I was trying to Google ODNR and fire safety rating, and I'm not seeing anything.
I can't find it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I was trying to find it too.
There are
Okay.
people that keep track of it. It might be the weather people. But someone's got it. We'll find it and send it around.
Yeah.
Someone-
and just because
So
at this
to
point,
be in there, we need a standard that. we can-
Correct.
Yes, a clear metric that is easily accessible and like, I don't know, non-opinion based or argument based. It is what it is kind of thing.
and just because it's what I kind of started at, and I don't think I got all my questions answered. Stacy has definitely come out and she'd just rather not have fireworks, which is a perfectly fine opinion and stance to take that I'm sure many people in the village would agree with. Is there anyone else who's, just like, you know what, let's just not let them be legal and not have that? Well,
Seems like a giant headache.
I'm
Yeah,
halfway there. I'm gonna be honest. I'm halfway there.
I see the fun. I see that people abuse the fun, right? So if we can put some guardrails up against the abuse, that feels like a good way to go. I mean, I also think that we'll see how this, because there's, unless this tonight, we pass with waiving of readings and as an emergency, something that disallows, we're going to go through this 4th of July season with fireworks being legal, and we can see what it's like. If it's absolutely horrendous, well, then it may change all of our opinions.
okay. And that actually is the good point there, Brian, is that at this point, it's too late to do anything for the 4th anyway. And I won't
Right.
be in town, so I won't be able to have an opinion on that.
I'll be
Mark's
here.
gonna be setting off fireworks in somebody else's yard.
I'll be in downtown Chicago, so I will let them set off fireworks.
Should we put some, I guess, is the newsletter gonna be out before? before
Diane
people-
wrote a thing about the deadline.
I'm just wondering if it's too late or if it will fall afterwards. Just something to consider. Maybe we put something in there about the guardrails with the state, because I think it's right certain days before the 4th or after the 4th, somewhere
Mhm.
around that, just to remind people.
Hold on, my email got closed. Give me a second, I'll see what.
While he's looking, it's the National Weather Service that tracks drought conditions and fire hazard and stuff like that. So I'll find the appropriate, I was just looking at the maps. We'll find some appropriate linkage and send it around.
The only other thing, can you hear me? The only thing I would maybe want to add is we should probably touch base with the police and see if all of this like stuff that we're doing, like, is this like enforceable, or is this like so much work that they can't even like handle this? Like, they have to check the weather, they have to make sure this is the right time, they have to make sure that this is like, I don't want to like pile on a lot of work for the police department too to enforce or not enforce.
It would be the same, Stacy, as if when we have a snow clearing and we need people off the street, and we've had this discussion in multiple councils, that the warning is given, and if people don't clear and people don't do it within the timeframes, then they can get cited and towed. So it's going to be enforced along those lines. I mean, most people will follow along. And then trust me, they're going to call their neighbors in. So there's going to be a few people that do it. People aren't going to rebel and fool for 800, 900 households at once. Most people are rule followers.
Okay, so it sounds like we're kind of in a place on that. So let's take a look at the thing that Eric's telling me not to worry too much. And I think I already know what you're going to say, Eric. Resolution 2022-19. Oh, real quick. Ordinance 13-2022 is up again because we had our first reading last time. That is the investment thing. Empowering our fiscal officer to invest money and declare an emergency and waive readings. Now, I know I objected to that last meeting and said we need to get at least 2 meetings. This would be a second reading of that? Is there anyone who still has a problem? Because I haven't heard anyone complain about it, make any comment on it. Is there any reason not to waive readings and pass that as an emergency tonight?
Nope.
Okay, so good. I want
Yeah,
to
have
get
we
that out of
received
the
any
way.
inputs? I have not received any negative emails.
Yeah. And for mine was almost just a matter of principle of you can't give it to us a day before and expect us to pass it. You need to get this done, you know.
Um,
I understand the admin's busy and they don't have a lot of people working down there, but you need to give us more than that.
I'm sorry, am
So,
I being heard? I think my internet might have froze.
oh, nope, you're being heard. I think I just talked over you like a giant bull.
Ah,
No,
okay.
yeah, no negative feedback. David.
So that brings us to
Okay, I'd be
2020
willing to proceed then to save us and get us money then.
Awesome. So the late edition is 2022-19, rejecting all bids for the renovation and declaring an emergency in order to notify bidders. With intent to waive and blah, blah, blah. And Eric, go ahead and tell us how we're then going to come up with another one that adjusts our cost by 6%, so we fall in under the 10%.
No, actually,
Oh.
we're gonna make some minor adjustments perhaps to the documents, but we're not gonna raise our price significantly. What we was actually a useful bid because we had a chance to meet. As you know, it's a very challenging time for everybody. And a lot of people, our local guys, we had some show up to our pre-bid. So we were anticipating in a couple cases where we'd have some additional bids. I was hoping for 3 bids, quite frankly, based on who was attending and all the subs that were coming. So we only got 1, and we had a very nice kind of post bid opening discussion with that gentleman. He's on the exhibit there, and he told us what was going on with with their world of some of the subs, and they're having some difficulties too. Some of it's prevailing wage, and we can fix we can offer some help on paperwork and stuff like that. And he also didn't fully understand from our discussion how we had written the contract to kind of share a bit of risk with anything that's above and beyond, because they're scared about committing to a certain number, and we've already written into our documents from our attorney that if they exceed a certain threshold, then we're going to get together and talk about that. And so, you're not definitively going to lose money because you bid. And that's one problem. Now, we're going to put it out there again after by the way, you're legally required to, reject the bids. Since we're a statutory municipality, the problem is we also don't have any leeway. Like, it would be nice if we were a school district, as an example, we would have actually brought this bid to you and said, hey, as a school district, can you, review it? Let's review it, go over it and see if you want to go ahead and waive the 10% requirement, because in this environment, you might want to based on what information we have, but we don't have that flexibility, unfortunately, as a non-charter municipality with our bid situation. So if they get above 10%, we have to reject them just out of hand. And so we have to play a little bit of a game, especially in this challenging environment where we've got to go back out, talk to our guys, have them understand what's going on with our documents and resend again. This gentleman who we met today, he's definitely going to rebid. He's already got all his stuff done, so it's easy for these guys. I talked to Pepper Construction today and I said, guys, where's your bid? We talked 4 weeks ago. Oh, our guys just didn't get it done. People are so busy. They're bidding on other stuff and not necessarily in the queue. So giving them a few more weeks, I think we can at least meet within 10% of what we have out there. So the only thing we need to do, it's a resolution. So you don't technically need to waive readings, specifically Jesse's advice. And I will simply pull it up to read to you. Jesse would like, 1 second. They should vote to pass as an emergency and then vote to pass the resolution itself. So that's it. So no need to waive readings. You just need to vote to pass an emergency. Now we put it in the language. I don't think when I'm just reading to you exactly what he sent me. But since it's a resolution, it doesn't need to have, it takes immediate effect. So it doesn't need, you don't need to waive readings in this case.
I don't think either of those statements are accurate.
I'm reading to you exactly what the legal counsel sent to me. I'll get him on the phone before the,
Comfortable if we decide to do it, to just get it
Yeah,
done tonight, which it looks like we should, because as Eric said, we legally cannot accept this bid.
right.
Because it is 16% over our proposed
Yeah.
cost instead of less than 10. I think to make things easier, with all due respect, Jesse, I will just move to waive readings anyway, so they're moved to pass as an emergency. If we took an extra 30 seconds or 3 minutes with the roll call vote, I'm okay adding 3 minutes to the meeting and just saying, yep, crossed and dotted, all the i's and t's.
That will not be wrong either by any means.
Yeah.
So cover your bases. So that's basically it. That'll give us the ability then to immediately prep with our professional staff, and we're going to try to get something back out to bid next week because the clock is ticking and we know this and we feel the pressure, but I think third time's a charm. I feel it. We've learned a lot in these last 2 times and we're just about there.
All right, so yeah, that was the big one. Those are the 3 things I wanted to talk about, had on my agenda. I apologize, I didn't type those in a Word document and send them to everyone.
We didn't talk about the tax budget that's on the agenda.
Oh, yes, just to go over, okay, I was looking at special stuff, not just little boring stuff.
Yeah.
The tax budget is on, again, this is the second reading. And they're asking us to waive the third and declare an emergency. I'm not good at describing this. Either Eric or Brian, do you want to talk about what the tax budget is? And I mean, it's not our budget for next year. Let me start with that.
Right.
It's not
This is
our
not
budget.
the village's 2023 budget. This is basically a document that is required to be submitted to the state. That is us evidencing that we are in fact, a municipality that is operating, that has, revenues and expenditures, and we have need for the tax revenue. So it allows us, for them to issue the certificate that allows us to continue to collect taxes. That's basically what this boils down to. And the document, which is in the
packet.
Right, in the packet, is, exactly that. And it also lays out what things we have that are not directly funded by debt, what upcoming projects. Jason, you are amused by something. Am I
apologize. Sorry, I had a text that was.
You're fine. Just as long as it wasn't like a booger hanging out my nose.
No, sorry.
I'm gonna check anyways, because now I'm all worried about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's what that is. However, I feel like we also need some clarification, because I didn't think we could pass this until the public hearing, and the public hearing isn't until later. The public hearing, because this also requires a public hearing, and the public hearing is immediately before our July 14th meeting. So I think this should just be a reading, because I don't know how we could pass it before it's had its public hearing.
Any comment on that, Eric?
No, sir. This is not my wheelhouse at the moment with
Yeah,
the,
so
I leave it to Brian.
hold on to that, Brian, and we'll bring it up tonight at the meeting. And I know, oh shoot, remind me of our new fiscal officer's name.
Jeff,
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I thought it was Jeff. I didn't want to say if I
I
was
don't
wrong.
think
Should've
he's
got out on it.
planning on being there though, so.
I seem to recall Mayor Hughes asking him if he can't. I can't remember if it was ever resolved.
He
remember
said
him
he
saying-
could, but we also didn't think it was necessary, but
Okay.
now we need this bit of clarification.
Hey,
Yeah.
do you need that, if I may ask, do you need that tonight for the vote?
Well,
Well, we're
he's-
not going to pass it as an emergency and waive readings tonight if we don't have those questions asked. I'll put it that way.
Well, yeah, the real question is, I don't think we can pass it until it's had its public hearing. Because what the
Yeah.
hell's the point of a public hearing if it's already been passed? And the public hearing is required by law.
a very important
Yeah.
reason not to attempt to pass it by emergency.
Yeah,
We're talking about 2022-16, right?
Correct.
Yeah, isn't that why we skipped a reading for one of our meetings? Because if we skipped a meeting but read them all 3 times, it would fall on the correct date.
That's something like that.
Yeah,
yeah. So, okay, we are not going to do
Yeah.
that tonight then.
no.
That, and thank you, Jason. That does seem to ring a bell somewhere. So, and thank you, Brian, for reminding me to take a peek at that.
Yep.
So we could get this discussion out of the way and just concentrate on business during the business meeting. Okay, with that save there from Council President Wolf, I get all official when I'm wrapping things up. Anyone else with any pressing business for the committee? All right, I move to adjourn.
Cool. Awesome. We'll see y'all in 15.
Awesome. See you in
See you, everyone.
15.
See you in a few.